A lot of people have trained as teachers in the past. They may have done a teacher training course 5, 10, 20 years ago, and may even be teaching somewhere now. And they're kind of aware of this online thing. They're aware of this, the world is moving towards this online existence faster than they may have expected. And they wonder, well, I kind of know that I need to head in this direction, but I really don't know what it's all about.
Yeah, and I kind of felt like that myself. So I was working in Italy. I was teacher training there, face to face, and then of course the pandemic moved us online, and I had some experience working online, not so much working live with people online, but I was a bit reticent. I didn't know exactly how it would work, how effective it would be, and I was amazed actually how relatively straightforward it was to adapt to online teaching. It takes practice, it takes thought, but it's absolutely doable. And actually the online classroom is just as effective as the face-to-face one, if not better.
So I can imagine can be some skepticism there as well from people who are used to teaching offline. Can online teaching be as good?
Yeah.
I guess the answer,
yes,
it can.
Is my answer. Yeah. But there are some key things to learn there.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that someone that's not used to the online world will have to?
The first one is where do you exist on the internet? What's the platform? And in my case, it was Zoom, and on Sealt it'll be Zoom as well. So it was a case of getting to grips with Zoom. I think I was aware of Zoom, but I don't think I'd actually used it.
Zoom came into its own.
It
was a pandemic baby.
Exactly.
Ironically, it's been around for about 20 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Suddenly, everyone became familiar with Zoom.
So it was learning how to use that, how to adapt kind of physical materials and things like course books. What do you do online?
Now, this is an interesting one, isn't it? Because I remember my traditional teaching days, I'd be doing a lot of photocopying, pages of course books. I'd be making little cards for these kinesthetic activities.
Destroying rainforests in the process.
Right, or even preparing the whiteboard in advance, or sticking things around the room, all these classic TEFL activities. Can that work online?
Yeah, absolutely. Not with the course books, but with digital versions. So quite often, Word documents, for example, materials which you've created or adapted or found online as well.
I guess there's also the crux of the crutch rather of the whiteboard in the classroom. I mean, certainly preparing lessons, part of what you do when you prepare a lesson is what's the whiteboard going to look like? What's the diagram of what's the finished whiteboard going to look like once the lesson's been taught? So you have to just think about what will the student be looking at?
Exactly, and you need that. And again, there's things like a Word document there, a PowerPoint presentation, and Zoom itself has a whiteboard feature, so you have that option as well.
Now, what about monitoring? So monitoring is when you set an activity for students and you set them off. You go off you go. And then you keep an eye on what they're doing as they're doing it so that you know how to pace the lesson. How do you do that?
That's the key difference, because in the physical classroom, you're walking around, you're monitoring, you're kind of behind them, or you're seeing what they've written. Obviously, you can't do that on Zoom, but there are other solutions there. So sometimes it's just oral, so you're asking where the student is up to in the activity. It may be that they can show you what they're working on. They can share their screen. We can use things like Google Docs as well. So that's, and then you can see what they're writing. So there is a solution for all of these.
And what about when it comes to activities? Because we talked about materials earlier, but different activities are, you might want to set students to do things in pairs or in small groups or by themselves or standing up or whatever. So you have to, I guess it's just a question of planning for that.
Absolutely. And again, if you have more than one student and you want to pair them or put them in groups, you can do that on Zoom as well. You have the breakout rooms as an option for that. One thing you can't do in exactly the same way is movement. I mean, you can get students to move, but you can't really get them to walk around and mingle with other students. But there's other ways to get around that. And for example, keeping the pace up, keeping the energy level up helps to keep the students focused.
And from the teacher's perspective as well, I mean, you have to just manage yourself in the sense that when you're on the other side of a screen, it can be tempting to lecture in a different way, because there is that physical barrier.
It's very easy to
between
turn it into a lecture, particularly if you're using something like PowerPoint. It's very easy just to click through the
slides,
slides,
the dreaded PowerPoint,
and just talk. So yeah, it's really important to, you can still use PowerPoint, but avoid that lecturing. Otherwise, it's not communicative and you're not giving your student a chance to speak.
And CIOT, in terms of the program, has been designed very much for that transition as well, for people who have perhaps trained in the past.
So all the things we talked about there, managing that environment, keeping it communicative, just getting used to using the technology, all of those things will be covered on CIOT.
Yeah, and for someone who has taught in the past, really, it fulfills a couple of purposes, really. A, as a refresher.
Yeah.
But if you've trained maybe 10 years ago but you haven't used your qualification much in the meantime, it's a very good refresher for your skills. But also it prepares you for the future, because the world is moving online. Teaching more and more is online. The career options are far more attractive online because you're in control. And so really, for someone who is thinking about rekindling their teaching experience, or even continuing in a different direction, CIOT really prepares you for this new online world that we're moving into.